was saying most of the time. And this wasn't about his stutter. He's had a stutter for a while. I have a stutter. That isn't the problem here. The problem is his inability to even have a coherent argument. He is the president, and he is unable to make coherent arguments against a madman. So it's important to be clear. Donald Trump didn't do well last night either, but he was able to stay out of Joe Biden's way, essentially allowing Joe Biden to destroy himself and make his terrible performance the center of attention. Trump, if there's one thing Trump did well last night, it's that he didn't go after Biden very hard, because that could have potentially made Trump the story and made Trump come off as a bully. Trump, for the most part, stayed out of it, and just allowed Biden to say shit that wasn't coherent and just completely lacked any energy. And his voice as well, he apparently has a cold or something, but voice was just not there. And I'm going to get to, by the way, an example later of when Biden's voice recently was very good to the point where this almost sounds like AI, but that'll be a little comedy later. I want to show you. Here is just to give you a proper example, because I'm not going to go through the whole debate. I'm not going to break the whole thing down, as I can't put myself through that again. I'm sorry. But I will show you an example of essentially how the debate went. This is a good example of how the whole thing was.
Continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security.
That's how it went most of the night. Biden unable to really have any coherent argument. Then Trump would latch onto the thing that would allow him to then change the subject to, in this case, the border, immigration, as a way to try to push what he views as his strong point forward. Like this, and there were even points. I mean, you could argue Biden set him up there. I'm not even sure what Biden was arguing. We defeated Medicare. What does that mean? Again, who knows what that means? But there was another point, and Matt Bender discussed this as well last night, or he brought this up, where Biden it was a question about abortion. This is a strong point for Democrats because they are pro-choice. The vast majority of the country is pro-choice. Support Roe v. Wade. And Biden, for some reason, brought up the border. Like, this is one of the issues where he is weakest on in terms of polling. Brings this up, and then Trump latches onto that and then makes that the topic, as opposed to abortion, one of Trump's weakest points. It was a, I was going to say a masterclass, but it wasn't a masterclass in anything. It was an example of just two people being so terrible, but one being so much more terrible that it became the story. Because let's be clear, Trump lied the entire time. He used Palestinian as a slur against Biden, which was disgusting. And just again, Trump is terrible. He was terrible. But Biden was barely a person. So this gets to this point here, which I think is great from Van. Remember this America. Remember this America. Whatever. Well-articulated lies always beat truth. And actually, I think this point from this reply is even better. I wouldn't say well-articulated, but more like confident rambling. Yes, Trump's confident rambling beats Biden's truth. The moments that Biden was able to get a point across or try and make a point, and I knew what he was trying to say because I understand what his positions are. When that was happening, that even though Biden was telling the truth, it doesn't mean anything if Trump is coming off as more confident and clear in his answers. Now, let's get to some reactions. So, again, this is immediately after the debate. Here is CNN's John King.
Minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket, and they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing, but then at the end, even his closing statement was a little halting. The contrast between the two candidates. Let me be clear. None of them, and a lot of Republicans, don't think Donald Trump had a great night. Donald Trump broke the fact-check machine more than I can count tonight. That will be on the record as we go forward. He refused to answer some very specific and direct questions about his conduct, about January 6th and what all. So that will be dealt with out there. And sometimes there's a parallel universe between the political elites and the American people. It'd be nice to see what the voters say. But I can tell you, it started minutes in. It started with the first couple of answers, and it has continued throughout the night from a, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, to what do we do about this? And it involves very senior people in the Democratic Party, including elected officials, saying we have a problem.
And just to co-sign what John is saying, I mean, the panic that I am hearing from...
Again, it was universal. That panic was apparently universal between all these Democratic commentators and their sources within the party at high levels within the party. I also want to say, I'll get to later on, Biden has apparently responded, at least through an aide, to the worry about his debate performance. You can see I didn't lead with that because it's not very encouraging, but I will get to his reaction. Here's Nicole Wallace.
And I think when
you say conversations happening, what do you mean?
I think people are talking. I think the conversations range from whether he should be in this race tomorrow morning to what was wrong with him. I mean, he has a cold that came out. Our own Kelly O'Donnell reported that a few minutes in. But exactly what you articulated.
Negative COVID test, but a cold.
Right. So those things were, I mean, the reason reporters were reporting on the cold was because of what you articulated. I mean, the voice was very, very soft. It wasn't the Joe Biden performance of the State of the Union. No. It wasn't seizing a moment to get on the offensive on immigration. It wasn't Joe Biden on the offensive on January 6th. It wasn't Joe Biden on the offensive on abortion, his two, shining issues. It was exactly what Chris Hayes predicted. It was Trump moderating not just tonally, but sounding less crazy as he lied as often as he breathed. The debate moderators did not fact check one thing, but they did give Joe Biden time to fact check, and he didn't do much of that either. It is not our job to tell people what to see and hear, but I think what I heard from a Biden aide is we can't necessarily spin too much what people did see and hear.
So it's important to note that these are all people, including myself here, that we are very engaged in what is going on. Very engaged in these individuals' positions and their strong points, their weak points. So how we view this debate may be different than how the average person views the debate. I was seeing, I don't know, one or two posts online where there were like watch parties, and in one case, half the people thought Biden did fine. So look, it's possible that this debate was fine for Biden, for the public. But I've just based on performance alone, again, I'm not even looking at the policy or the answers, which there are many issues to discuss there. I'm not even looking at that. I'm looking at the performance. I'm looking at, does this man appear like he can lead anything? Does it appear like he can, get up in the morning, put his own clothes on? Like he reminded me a lot, actually, of how my grandmother looked a few months before she passed of dementia. So, look, that's how I viewed it. Maybe that put a bias on me viewing this debate and how I viewed it. But